People wanted an update on the Bible reading, so this is going to be one more short video, just telling people how it went. And for those that are normal viewers, if you don't want what they call religious stuff, I understand. We are about to start Farmathon right now. Let me show you. Can you see out of that? No, you can't. Wait, maybe. See that? There you go. The roof is off of the hog house currently, so we're going to show you that in a video. The corn's down to 20%. I'm going to show you that in a video. We've got stuff set up, so we are quickly getting to harvest. So we got that coming. Pretty fun, exciting stuff. But people, this is the only way I can update people on the best way, just to do this. And then when people want to know how to go, I just give them the video and let them see it there. So I learned, if you don't know, I learned late last week. So today's the 18th, Wednesday. We learned like Friday of last week that the Satanic Temple of Iowa was wanting to read their book up in our courthouse lawn. It's Paradise Lost. This is Tama County, Iowa. The Satanic Temple of Iowa is the same group that did the Baphomet statue down at the Capitol last year in opposition to the Christian nativity scene. They got beheaded. It was quite the issue. They had wanted to read at the Capitol because in Iowa, every year at every county courthouse, the Bible is read through, and it's a yearly thing, has been since at least 2016. And even then, I know Terry Branstad would sign the proclamation, but Kim Reynolds, those are governors, the former and the current, will sign a proclamation endorsing the reading of the Bible at the courthouses. The Satanic Temple of Iowa does not like that, so they do something in opposition of it. And this is their thing. And they wanted to go down there and read it at the Capitol. The Capitol wouldn't let them pull two stunts in 1 year, so to speak. But what people don't understand is the Satanic Temple of Iowa is not a Satanist group, especially as we would consider them satanic. They are an atheist group. You can look at their tenets on their website. They don't believe in a supernatural. They don't believe in God, and they don't believe in Satan, that he's real. And it says that right on their website. So they are an atheist group. They don't believe in supernatural. They are not agnostic, which means that you think that you can't know if there's a God or not. That's agnostic. You don't know. But they're atheists, meaning they believe there is no God, and then they're offended when we act like there is one. I can cut to the chase on how it went. No drama, well, I guess I'll get to that. I'm not going to have a lot of negative things to say if that's what you're here for, but I'll give you a thorough assessment. I think they're atheists. With atheists, I think you have the prideful atheists that think they're too smart to believe in God, and those generally don't squawk very loud. And then you have the atheists, which I think encompass most atheists. I think the people that think they're too smart to believe in God, they'd be more agnostic, but deep down they're atheists. Well, then you have what I think encompasses most atheists, and they're angry at Christians and Christianity, and they would much rather nothing happen than for God to be honored. So they actively believe there is no God. Atheism is a religion, and they hate to say that, but it is a religion. It should be looked at as a religion. The Satanic Temple of Iowa is an atheist group, and they want religious rights, and I absolutely believe they're a religion. Atheism. They want no God. They want no God to be represented, and they do not want God to be represented. So anytime they can remove God from the Capitol or from the courthouse or whatever, and they are replacing it with no God. God not being there. And they are the religion of no God. So anytime they can remove Christianity, remove anything honoring God, their religion is the default no God religion. So when you take God off of the courthouse or out of the Capitol, they are the default. They are the representatives of no God. And then they are being represented then if Christians aren't. So they're not really advocating for Satan. They're trying to shock people into getting a reaction, into causing such a kerfuffle that, in which was immediately said up here in Tama County, well, maybe nobody should do anything. That's what they want. They're not there espousing atheism. They're not there espousing that there is no God. They're there just to cause issues so that somebody says nobody gets to do anything, and then they win because they are ultimately the religion of nothing. They want nothing. And they are offended. They're not content with us just doing our thing, believing in God. They want no God. They are offended by God. They actively seek to stop God from being honored. I personally believe from experience that atheists are truly deep down mad at God. And that's why they feel such a victory when God gets removed from something. When God is not being talked about, then it's as if he doesn't exist, and that is a religion of atheism. And I have a little bit of a problem with public schools acting like God doesn't exist, because then they act like that's an atheistic position. God demands to be considered or to be ignored. There is no neutrality. And when you ignore God, you're espousing atheism. So I have a little bit of that problem. But anytime the Satanists, which are atheists, can remove God from the premises, then the atheism actually wins, and that's a victory for them. So they want to offend. They come out, they seek to be hated. They do have a desire to be a victim. They come out with their satanic logos, and they read in Paradise Lost, which, quite frankly, I'm not offended by Paradise Lost. When the Catholic Church was the government, it was a poem and an indictment against the church as the government. And so it's anti-Catholic and it's anti-government. It doesn't really offend me. They're mocking Adam and Eve. I don't think that ought to go without being opposed. So that's why we went up and read the Bible. God's word is enough. I didn't know if they were going to, I didn't know if the cops were going to arrest me or they were going to cause issues. I didn't know if they were going to be confrontational. Either way, I was going to read the Bible regardless, and they all knew I was coming. I was fully prepared to be arrested or whatever. I was just going to meet. I was not going to escalate the situation at all. I just honestly just wanted the Bible read so that God was glorified. And because I think God is glorified in the reading of his word, I hoped there was no confrontation. I hoped there was no law enforcement to come out. And there wasn't. So that was a good thing. A lot of Christians were scared to really step up at the beginning because they didn't want to have issues. They can't afford to be fired. They can't afford to lose the time from work and such, or I don't know how to explain it. I don't blame them necessarily. But then after they saw that, hey, this is a good thing. Adam's not just going to be out there escalating the situation. He's legitimately just wanting to read the Bible. They're not going to be causing issues. The law's not going to be coming over causing problems. Nobody's going to be arrested. Then things started, you know what, this is an honorable thing to do. And the amazing thing is I think we had, I don't know how many different churches, 8 or 10 different churches kind of represented around there. I could name them: Reformed Baptist, New Life Evangelical Free, our church, Solid Rock Bible Church, Fellowship Baptist in Marshalltown, New Life in Marshalltown, Grace Community over there in Toledo, and I don't know who else, but there was multiple people, and they desired to read, so we let them read too. And they sat around, and we got the entire New Testament read, from every word, every verse represented and read in 2 days. I started about 7:30 on Monday, and I took the grandstand, and the Satanists, they had maybe 4 or 5, and they got on the opposite side of a tree behind us, and they wanted the shade, which is fine, but they sat at a table and they read. They brought out a sound system, so we brought out our sound system. I had it in the truck ready to go. I didn't bring it out till they brought out theirs. And so we went one way, and we were on the grandstand, and we were out in the sun. It was warm, but we're pretty used to the, I mean, we farm, so 85 is nothing compared to 115 heat index. It wasn't humid, it wasn't miserable, there was a little breeze. It's pretty cool. We're already tanned up, so there's times during the lull of the day, and we were just kind of monotonous. We took some shade, but by and far we tried to stay out in the middle of the grandstand, standing up in respect for God's word, and we read the entire New Testament. It was probably 7:30 to 3:30 on day 1, and then 6:30. I started at 6:30. Pardon me. 6:30 to 2:30 on day 2, and then but that makes for a long day, straight through, never stopping. We didn't take any breaks. The New Testament's 180,000 words. 180,000 words. Their book is 60,000. They were still reading when we left. It was more of an event for them. They took a lot. I think they kind of took a lot of breaks. They read slow. They were just kind of over there. They had. I never saw more than 6 at one time. And like I say, they just kind of a little bitty group that if you had to look for them. We were very prominent. I was happy to stand up for Christ, and they have a bandstand, so we took that, and we got our 180,000 done in 2, what would that be, 7:30 to 3:30, so 8-hour days, 2 8-hour days. And we done our 2 8-hour days and got our 180,000 words. They didn't get started till 8:30 or 9 o'clock of a morning, from what I could tell, and I don't know how late they ran at night. So we left them doing their thing. On day 1, one of them offered me a bottle of water, extended a kindness, and we had a lot of water. I very politely declined it because we had our water. And then on day 2, one of them came over before we got started, and I don't think it was meant as passive aggressive. He's like, well, you look pretty hot over here yesterday out here in the sun. I don't want you getting heat stroke, and just a little bit, but I didn't take offense to it, and I don't really think he meant it very heartedly as an offense. But he offered a suntan lotion or sunscreen, and which, I mean, I look like a Puerto Rican most of the year, so I'm not a big, I don't need a lot of sunscreen. And I said, that's very kind of you. We really appreciate that consideration, but I don't put a lot of chemical on my skin anyways, and I'm not a nut about it, but I just try to, the less the better. So they were trying to extend a little bit of a courtesy to show that they're not wanting to be antagonistic while they're up there. I think the antagonism from them would come the prior to and after, but everything was on the up and up there. Nobody was escalating it. They saw us packing up when we got done. They went out of their way watching us leave, and they were kind of reading that they're doing their little thing, and they went out of their way to wave kindly as we were leaving. At least the ones that weren't in charge. And I think the guy in charge, he was kind of, so they were seeking to show that they weren't evil. And I thought that was kind of ironic uh, that they didn't want to be seen as the bad guys after the fact up there. But I think their modus operandi, is to be seen as the bad guy to cause enough of a kerfuffle to get things shut down. Because when things are shut down, they win. And that's their ultimate goal. But I think their human side, humanity came through in the fact that they didn't want to they wanted to be the victims. But in the end, I think it was them that was up there trying to cause trouble, even although passive aggressively, and they weren't comfortable with that mantle so much. And when we didn't give them victimhood status or do anything antagonistic to them, they were standing there left as, well, we just came an hour. Multiple of them traveled an hour from the big cities to this rural farm county to take over their courthouse, and all these guys did was read the Bible, and they left us alone because they've got free speech, and I'm cool with that. So I saw a very poorly represented group of atheists. Zero hate for them, zero anger for them. My heart was going out to them, because when I think of atheists, they were certainly not demon-possessed Satan worshipers. They don't believe in Satan. So they have their agenda, and that, like I've already explained that. I won't go that. But I had pity for them. And not in the pity like, you know, when somebody says, I don't need your pity. So despite them, you pity them anyways. That's not what I'm doing. They don't want my pity. They don't yearn for my pity. But my heart went out to these guys, that their souls, and I saw a bunch of people who were probably, and I don't mean this in a bad way to them, but they were the ones that were a little bit different, maybe more just different, smart in their own way, but they didn't fit in, maybe didn't fit in school, and they were bullied. They might have had abusive parents. And I'm not saying those people up there, but when I see atheists, and I've dealt with atheists, they're legitimate victims as children. And then they have crappy childhoods, quite frankly. Something happened that really traumatized them as a child. And they think to themselves, how can God let this happen? And in response, they have a response is, well, God would not have let this happen. There is no God. Or, if God's going to let this happen, I'm not going to believe in that God. And so they become atheists. What I actually call them, they're angry. They're anti-theists. They're against God. Deep down, they know there's a God, but they're mad at him for letting something happen. And they're going to punish him for letting them get raped, or letting them get abused, or letting their mom die, or letting their mom be a drug addict, or letting their dad beat them, or this and that and the other. And there's a lot of hurting people out there that can't believe God would let something happen. And to punish God, they don't believe in him. That's what I see a lot of times when I see atheists. And when I looked over there at those people, I saw a lot of people that were, well, a lot, 4, 5, 6 people who were still created in the image of God and who were mad at God. That's what I saw. Whether they accept that or not, even if it was true, they wouldn't accept it, and I understand that. So all they can do is fight for their First Amendment right to go up there and be offensive to Christians, because they do not appreciate Christians glorifying the God that allowed them to suffer at some point in their life. And when you see those people, you have a lot more compassion for them. They need Jesus Christ too. And to answer the question, I'm not going to get real preachy here, but that might have been the only possibility of a life for them. That hardship might have been the only chance for them to come to know God, because it's forced them to realize that, and they've got an opportunity. But they weren't up there offering goats to Satan. They don't even believe in Satan. I saw atheists. And in my mind, I saw them coming from broken homes, and probably didn't have, I don't want to impose or infer too much on them, but I didn't see children who grew up with good fathers. And so that's why my heart goes out to these dads. Be a dad. Be a father. I saw people that wanted to be victims. They probably were legitimate victims their whole life. And they needed to be victims up there, and they weren't victims. Nobody imposed on their rights, and nobody gave them an opportunity to be a victim. They had a lot of press attention from our local newspaper, because I think he might have even been the one to bring them in, because he was the local photographer, he went in like he was old buddies with them, laughing and I don't know, fist bumping almost. I think he took maybe one picture of us to put in the newspaper, but he spent a whole lot of time over there, comrades, our local newspaper guy. And that's fine, but nobody hurt them at all. I had nothing but pity and a Christian love for them, and I saw broken, hurting people who blamed God for their bad lives. So my heart goes out to those people. They certainly didn't win a victory by being victims from Tama County. They had nothing to hold against us, and I don't hold anything against them. So I actually remember and think, I think it's like Genesis 50:20 maybe, when Joseph said to his brothers, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. And they really gave us an opportunity to go up there to that courthouse, read the entire New Testament, and for the churches to be more united in that than anything else I've ever seen in this community. So God was honored and God was glorified amongst the Christians up here in Tama. That's it.